Hi, and welcome to the A Little Spoon Kitchen. Today we are making butter tarts, a Canadian dessert that I found a couple years ago. I did not know they existed. I am so sad for my previous self. And I don't live in Canada, I live in the US, so I had to learn how to make them and make the best possible version that I could come up with. So that's what we are going to be making today. Of course, I have to use maple syrup in mine. It's actually not super traditional to put maple syrup in butter tarts, but here we are. I do a bit of a reduction of this maple syrup and I use it in the filling. We've got a really nice light flaky pie crust that we're going to be using for the base of the tarts. And I'm going to hopefully give you guys some really good pointers as we go along. Now I will tell everybody here today, you are watching a video that's up on YouTube, but this was previously a live. So you will see me kind of like looking off to the side here at my computer. I'm talking to people that are in my live chat. They may ask some questions that will help you during the course of you watching this. I'm gonna try, like I said, to answer as many questions just in general about what I'm doing and the ingredients that I'm using and why I'm using them. But we'll probably get some pretty good questions from our chat as well. And then we're gonna go basically from start to finish. I'm gonna start a little bit on the filling and kind of go back and forth a little bit. But I'm trying to go in the same order as the recipe is online. You can find this recipe at alittlespoon.com. And obviously this is the butter tart recipe. And you can follow along with that recipe and this video. Let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to put 1 1/3 cups of the maple syrup into this pot, and we're going to reduce it down to about 1 cup. So we're going to reduce it by 1/3 of a cup. Essentially, we're taking it from about, I believe it's 425 milliliters down to 320. So let's do that. Which doesn't, let's see. Okay. I'm gonna get this going. There we go, get the power on. I need about 1 1/3 cup. Oh my goodness. This makes about 12 if you're interested in knowing how many you're gonna get, and you will probably have some extra filling. That's okay. It's kind of hard to get everything perfect, but you can always make a little extra dough, and then you can make a whole nother like 4 or so if you wanted to. Okay, so we've got our first. We're gonna let this kind of go, get kind of adjusted and get a little bit warmed up. Okay. We're gonna let it cook for about 5 minutes at like medium. And then we're going to bring that temperature up pretty high. And we want it to get it between about 220, 240 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 104 to about 116 degrees Celsius. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna help it set. So if you've ever made, let me keep this. If you've ever made like caramel or candies or something like that, you'll know that the higher the temperature, the further that you get into that like hardened state. So you have like a soft ball, a hard ball, and then like hard crack temperatures for candy. And the higher you go, the more solidified that will become once it starts to cool. And so what we're doing is we're just kind of helping that along. It will also reach a pretty extreme temperature while they're baking in the oven. You'll see it kind of bubbling and all that kind of stuff. This is just a little helping hand.
How long do these keep for?
So I have frozen these. They defrost fine. If you take them from the freezer and then leave them out on the counter, they will defrost. You can also like rebake them if you wanted to reheat them. That would be fine. But I would suggest that you let them kind of defrost before you move them directly into the oven. And I usually just leave them out on the counter for like up to 5 days. Just leave them out on the counter and eat them as we get to them. Oh yeah, we have a friend coming in about a week. We can save you one for sure. For sure. Okay, so now while that is heating up, I am going to cut up the butter, and I'm gonna add some of the shortening. We've got some Crisco here, and I've got some Kerrygold. I'm also gonna grab another plate because I'm getting maple syrup on my counter, and I'm watching it happen. I'm gonna cut up the butter and the shortening, and we wanna get them as cold as possible for our pie crust, because I don't want it to get mushed in with the flour. I want it to maintain its shape. And so we are going to cut that, and then these pieces we're gonna make kind of like half, I'd say like half inch, like so 1.3 centimeter like cubes, basically. We're just kind of giving it a bit of a rough dice. And we're gonna stick it in the freezer to stay super, super cold while we get everything else together. And this is starting to heat up now. Oh, it smells really good. Okay, and for the dough, if I can get my hands in here, because now I've got butter all over my fingies. For the dough, we are going to use 11 tablespoons of very cold unsalted butter. I like to use unsalted butter when I'm baking. I prefer to decide how salty I want things to be, and not for the butter to kind of take me somewhere and then it's either like too salty or I have to like adjust weirdly. It's just easier to use unsalted butter and then do what you want with it. That's about 156 grams of butter, and I am going to use my kitchen scale because I have no idea how you're supposed to tell how to do 11 tablespoons from this. Even like, I mean, it's got like little notches in it, but that's not scientific enough for me. That's not consistent enough for me. Let's turn this down a little bit. And it will froth, that's okay. It's fine if it's doing that. It's not hurting anybody. Okay. This has 16 tablespoons in it. So we're gonna just try to pretend like we're gonna get it right the first time. Oh. Close. We're close. Okay. So now what I'm gonna do, I've got this big kind of hunk of butter over here. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna cut that down into smaller pieces. And I took this butter out too long ago and it's really soft, so we're gonna have to be careful here. We're about to make a mess. Do I have anybody cooking with me today? I know I asked a little bit earlier. Or are we just hanging and learning? So usually, if I take this right out of the refrigerator and start cutting it immediately, I can like make like cubes and like stack them and it's a lot easier. But this will do. Huh? What? Oh, good. Cool. I have to check something really quick. I have a question about this. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, apparently I've written this wrong. So I'm gonna have to go in and fix this recipe. I have 425 milliliters written here, which is not 1 1/3 cup, it's 1 3/4 cup. So I need to fix that. 180, I need 120 extra milliliters. I said the numbers and I was like, that's not right. That's not right. To go from 425 to 320 is reducing it down to 1 1/3 cup. So I've incorrectly written the reduction. But now I'm also wondering if that's the correct one and I just gave the wrong. Dang, friends. This is why you should check your recipes before you post them. I could go into my notes and find the recipe in my notes. But I'd have to stop. What should I do, babe?
Sorry,
you're not listening at all?
No,
I have the wrong information here. I've got conflicting information on my numbers for what I should be using. I have 425 milliliters, which is 1 3/4 cup, reduced to 320, which is 1 1/3 cup. And then I have here 1 1/2 or 1 1/3 cup reduced to 1 cup. Which one is it? I don't know. I have to look at my notes, which are buried in a folder in there. Yeah, you might have to. Okay, we're gonna stop for a second because I want to do this correctly and I don't know why it's got that. So we're gonna jump. That's fun. I've made this recipe so many times and I've never noticed that. I've even made it from the website, which is hilarious. Okay, let's go to where I keep my notes and see what I've written here. I think I have to go to my handwritten notes, babe. This is honestly, you know what's funny about this is this recipe has like more likes on it than most of the other recipes on the website, and nobody said anything to me about like the measurements being wrong. They must all just be Americans using the.
Well, if they're just not American using grams, then they only use grams. Then
well, that's what I'm saying is the people the people who are making it are only using imperial measurements, and
so the metric is inconsistent, or the comparison to imperial to metric is inconsistent.
No, like the. Hold on a second. Here. What do I have here? Yeah, 1 cup. I have it reduced 1 cup to 320 mil. You know what? I know what it is. This is correct. This is correct. I know what I did. That's not supposed to say milliliters. It's supposed to say grams. Honey or maple syrup is heavier than water. So it's 1 1/3 cups maple syrup, which is 425 grams of maple syrup, because I started weighing my ingredients a long time ago and I incorrectly labeled it. That's what it is. Okay, we're fine. We're back on track. I just need to change the label on this because it's 425 grams down to 320 grams. we're fine. So the volume is fine and the metric is fine, but it's incorrectly labeled because it's by weight, not by volume, and I've labeled it as volume. The more we know, so this is why it's important when you are transitioning and you're using like imperial versus metric measurements. It's important to understand that volume and weight are not the same thing. And when you weigh or when you measure with imperial measurements, we do everything in America by volume. So everything is a cup or a quarter cup or a tablespoon or a teaspoon or whatever. But when you go into the metric system, you can weigh or you can measure by volume, but it's obviously less precise. So 240 milliliters is a cup of water, but 240 milliliters of honey weighs much, has a much different weight, as we can tell, than it does water. So water is 240 grams, but that same in 1 cup, but that same 1 cup of maple syrup is 320 grams. Which is very different. So that may have been confusing. I need to get this up to a top temperature now that I've reduced it. I think I turned it off, yeah. Okay, we're back on track. All right, let me bring my chat back up because now I can't see you guys. Chat. Troubleshooting complete. Yeah.
I'll get it.
What's going on? Did I miss something? Yeah, I prefer the metric system when cooking, and what I've been trying to do recently, which is probably why this ended up the way that it did, whoops, my bad, is what I try to do is I try to give a milliliter and a gram, so that if you wanted to, you don't have to use a single measuring spoon or measuring cup. You can just kind of add everything into a bowl and just keep zeroing out your kitchen scale and just keep adding. Like even eggs, I'm like, it's about, I guess we did ice cream. I did a brown butter bourbon ice cream recipe that went up last week. And we are actually gonna that's the next cook along. The next cook along is brown butter bourbon ice cream. But it has 6 egg yolks. And I'm like, that's about 90 to 95 grams of egg yolks. Like, why not? Let's give everybody all the information. Just get a scale. Honestly, like it's so much easier to do things when you have a scale. And the thing is too, the nice thing is that it kind of, having a scale takes away the guesswork. Using grams, using weight, like doing everything by weight takes away the guesswork, and it also makes your food far more consistent. So like sometimes, like if you notice when you're like, man, this recipe didn't do, like Miss Cookie recipe or whatever, it wasn't like this last time, it didn't spread as much, or it's mounding more, like it's not like spreading as much as it did last time, and I don't know why it's doing that. And it's probably because your flour is different. You scooped it differently, one time than you did the other time, instead of just weighing out the exact amount. And so you end up using like a different amount of flour, or even this, right, is like, how are you supposed to properly exactly measure out butter? It's like different. And so you're kind of fighting that, and in order to fight that, you use a scale and you just do everything by weight, and it makes it more efficient. Trying to measure out cups and ounces but not knowing whether I'm using fluid ounces, yeah, that can be rough. That can certainly be rough. Okay, so I've got 156 grams or 11 tablespoons of butter here, and now I'm going to be adding a quarter cup of shortening, which is about 50 grams. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm honestly just going to like scoop it onto here, and I'm just going to use like a spoon. Let's turn this back on. Okay, so we need 50 grams. And like I said, I want to get this really cold, so I'm going to have to leave this in the freezer for like a little while. So yeah, let's get this going. We may have some time to stop and answer questions. I'm just going to do like little pats because like I said, like we've already kind of tried to cut up our butter a little bit. I keep wanting to call it cheese because it's yellow. We've already cut up our butter quite a bit, and so what we want to do is we want to keep these pieces just as small as the butter. Now, I will say this, the butter is going to harden a lot because it has water in it. The shortening does not have water. It is going to stay relatively soft. Don't freak out if it doesn't harden all the way. That's okay. We just want everything to be cold. Okay, so I'm about halfway there. If I do like a big clump of this, then you're gonna have like a big clump of it in the, like starting off when you're doing your pie crust, and I don't want that. There's no point in like, you like cut all of the butter pieces in these tiny pieces so it mixes well and you have like one wad of shortening. We're not gonna do that. Now, the reason that I'm doing shortening, I guess we might as well talk about this. So the reason that we're doing shortening is because it doesn't have any water in it. It helps stop gluten from forming when we start mixing up our pie crust. I've done a couple of different things and we can get more to that. Close, 2 more grams. I've done a couple of other things with the flour that I chose to also stop gluten formation, which makes that tough pie crust, right? I want to try to keep it as soft and flaky as possible. So I'm doing everything I can to kind of inhibit gluten formation without making a pie crust that's so soft it just falls apart. I'm trying to find like that happy medium. Okay, so I've got a plate of dollops of shortening and butter here. I'm gonna put this directly into my freezer. We're gonna get this as cold as we possibly can. I don't have a lot of room in this freezer. Let's see. We can put it right here. There we go. She's in. Okay. So I'm just gonna do like we're gonna do a quick measurement here to see how far I got because I was not intensely paying attention to this. I still have a ways to go. Okay, cool. Now the thing about this is once you bring this up to a high temperature, it's gonna boil off a lot of that, a lot of the liquid, a lot of the water in here pretty fast. Like it's gonna steam quite a bit and froth quite a bit. There we go. Okay. So it will reduce. Let's see, well, let me turn it back on. Let's get that going again now that we figured did the troubleshooting that we needed to do. I will make sure to fix the labeling in the recipe with the correct measurement with grams. And I'll add in the actual milliliters in there too, just so that you have everything that you need if you want to go by volume or you want to go by grams. With the maple syrup, I'll go ahead and I'll update that so that's correct on all fronts. Okay, so we've got our pie crust stuff in there. We got our butter and our shortening. I am going to go ahead and mix our dry ingredients together while this is still going. And get that kind of like ready so that we can pull the butter out and immediately just kind of start going. What I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to do it right in the food processor. Why not? There we go. Okay, so for the dough, we are going to need, oh my goodness, 1 1/8 cup of all-purpose flour and 1 1/8 cup of cake flour. So I'm using all-purpose, I'm using half and half of all-purpose flour and cake flour. Now let me give you the grams on this so you guys can see the difference. Okay, so I've got 142 grams of all-purpose flour and 128 grams of cake flour. So you can see cake flour is finely milled, it's got less protein, it is a lighter flour, and you can see the difference. They're both the same exact volume measurement, but they're different weights. Because of how they are milled. Excuse me. Butter tarts, we're making butter tarts, yay! We used a little spoon, we used a little spoon for the shortening. Does anybody, I know it is the start of a new month. So we do these streams once a month. It's supposed to be the first Sunday of every month. We've done a pretty good job of sticking to that schedule. If I'm out of town, sometimes we'll move it to like the second Sunday of the month, but typically it's the first Sunday of every month. Good evening from Perth, Australia. Hi, welcome. Welcome, welcome. You're in for a treat, literally and figuratively. Does anybody have any questions? Where are we on questions? And do we have anything? Good morning. All right, this one is my cake flour. So cake flour has usually somewhere between 8 and 9% protein makeup, which means it's going to have it has less gluten in it, which means that it is going to always stay softer. So that's why cake flour is specifically used for cakes, right? Because it's softer than, say, something like bread. And so what we are doing I'm going to just rehash. We've got a 50-50 by volume measurement of cake flour and all-purpose flour. All-purpose flour is typically somewhere between 10 and like, I think King Arthur flour is 11.7% protein. So you've got somewhere between typically like 10 and like 12 is like the high end of all-purpose flour. And it's meant to kind of take the place of, instead of using like specifically cake flour, pastry flour, which are on the lower end of that protein percentage and like ability to produce gluten and that gluten percentage. And bread flour is like on the other side of that, right? So it's typically like up to like 13 and higher. And so all-purpose flour is kind of like toes that middle line, so you can use it as an all-purpose flour. But I really did want something to be softer, so I've kind of brought in a lower protein flour to help with that. And then I lost this, so let's turn this back on. All right, and I said I needed 128 grams, so I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to add her in. And I'm not even going to bother trying to measure this with a, okay, 128. Let me do this too. I guess I'll do this. Let me show you guys, if you're curious and you haven't had an opportunity to have like really consistent, how do I say this, really consistent results with like your baking, and you are using volumetric measurement. So someone says, hey, I need a cup of flour, 2 cups of flour, and you're doing it that way on the recipes for baking, and it doesn't seem to be consistent. This is how you're supposed to measure flour for baking purposes. Honestly, it should be for all purposes, but we're just gonna go with it. So I said, what, 1 1/8? We'll do a 1/4 cup. I'll show you guys how to do this, and then I'll do the rest with this scale. So what you need to do when you're baking is you need to make sure that your dough is aerated. And the way that you do that is by kind of like scooping around. Okay, so we're gonna kind of fluff up. You can see me, I'm kind of just like moving that around. And you're going to kind of just drop it right into the scoop that you want, okay? And then you're gonna level it off. This is properly scooped flour. If you just do this and come right in and pull this up, this is way more compacted than this is. And so you can get, if I did this same, so like let's say, so this is a 1/4 cup, because actually if we need this much, we can play around here. Let's do some science experiments live on stream. So this 1/4 cup, properly scooped and leveled, gave me 32.7 grams. Now, if I come in and I just scoop and do this, somebody's gonna do the math for me. Can somebody live do the math for me? Are you ready? I said 32.7, okay? I'm gonna give you a total, because I'm working on a total here, and then I need somebody to subtract that 32.7 and tell me what this one ends up at. You ready? Okay, so now I've got 73.6 Who's doing it? Who's fast at math? Let's do it. Who's doing it? 40.9? Bro. That's such a big difference. And I need 142 grams. Okay, so we're just gonna keep going until we get 142. That's so, like think about how much of a difference that could be when you're making your recipe and you're trying to get things consistent and you just happen to like not paying attention or you like scoop a little heavy that day or something like that. And you can add like up to 30% more flour than you need in a recipe because it's not properly aerated. All right, I want to check the temperature on this because I am smelling it. Oh yeah. She's about ready. I want it to go just a little higher. And then we will be there. That smells really good. Like 25% more. Thank you for doing the math on that, whoever. Thank you, Crust. A number. Emmy's like, I'm not doing the math. Someone can do it for me. Hey, Zero. How are you today? It's a substantial difference. It's a big difference. A very big difference. And I feel like since the onstart of like the pandemic, that because people started getting like really heavy into like sourdough, I know we've all been there. People started getting really heavy into like sourdough, and like you can't go out to restaurants, so people started cooking a lot more for themselves at home and like trying to do like nicer recipes and things like that. I do feel like more people have kitchen scales than they did before. I do feel like people have learned quite a bit about baking and technique and temperature and like all that kind of stuff. But it's still kind of one of those things. It's like, it's nice to know. It's nice to hear somebody talk about it. It's nice to learn about it. But it is one of the things that, yeah, if people's bread recipes are messed up, that could be why. It could. There's a lot. And honestly, I will say, like, there's so much science in baking that, like, there's a lot of things that you could have done. I really like going through Reddit threads and, like, seeing people are like, what happened to my cookies? And just, like, a picture of cookies that are, like, all over the place. And it's like, okay, well, what was your recipe? Or, you know, whatever. And people you can look at a picture of a cookie and be like, oh, well, you had too much sugar, or how much flour did you put in this? This looks like you're missing flour or something like that. And it's actually really easy to tell what's going on if you cook enough or you bake enough. But it's fun. It's fun to go through that and like try to guess. It's like being a doctor, like the doctors who are like, help me diagnose this patient, and they do like quick like things on like social medias where they like will like tell a story and they're like, tell me what you think this is. And it's kind of like that. Or it's like, hey, what was this baking fail? Tell me what happened. Okay, I think this is about done. She's bubbling. Okay. Almost done. I want it to hit 240. That's what I'm going for. The 115.5 Celsius is what I'm going for. But I can really smell it, and I can tell. You can see how much froth, and you can kind of see. So we don't have just the bubbles that are coming up the side. We also have this kind of like, what would I call this? It almost looks. It looks like, I don't know what to call it. Kind of like, instead of like a bunch of bubbles, it gets kind of just like a really, really fine bubble froth on the top. And I can like, you can tell that is getting up there. Oh, hey, close. Now, I'm definitely in the range. I had said 220 to 240, which is 104 to 115.5. So I'm definitely in that range, and I can probably stop. It's been at this temperature for long enough. I just really wanted to hit 240. Okay, we'll call this a day. This is done. Okay, well now I'm just gonna set that down. I'm gonna let that chill out. I want that to come down in temperature. This is gonna get mixed into the filling, but the filling has eggs in it. So we need to make sure that this comes down well enough that we don't have problems when we add our eggs to our filling. So this temperature, this and the rest of the filling needs to be down under 140 degrees. I do not know what that is Celsius, but I probably have it written down here somewhere because that's me. Let's see. Do I have it written down? I don't think I do. Anybody want to throw that into chat so I can say it out loud on the... I don't see it. I don't feel like reading through the recipe, honestly. I'm trying to scan it, and I feel like... Anybody want to say what 140 Celsius is? 60 C. You know, I was going to guess 60, but it would have been a guess, and I didn't want to guess a wrong number, and then it'd be like immortalized on the internet for people to get incorrect when I say, oh, actually, no, it's this a second later. So yes, thank you, Cross. It's 60 Celsius. So it needs to be under that. The albumin, the white part of eggs, cook at a higher temperature than the yolk does. The yolk will start cooking at about 140 or 60 C. You can go up to, who's ready with it? 180 degrees. Anybody? Is when the albumin, the white part of your eggs, fully cooks through and you get like your fully cooked, like hard-boiled eggs or scrambled eggs. And so kind of knowing the lowest temperature, even the highest temperature can help a lot when you're cooking. It's funny because I was literally typing up all of these numbers with the ice cream recipe that I just did, and I in one ear and out the other. I'm gonna just unplug this so it cools off faster. Actually, we can move this. We can move this to the side and get back to it when we need it. We are gonna be making some brown butter as well. I buy Kerrygold from Costco when it's on sale. Actually, if anybody follows me on Instagram, if you'd like to follow me on Instagram, I'm at @a_little_spoon. I kid you not, every time I see that my Costco has Kerrygold butter on sale, I will post a story about it in my Instagram to let everybody know that it's on sale. So if you want an update and you want to know when you should start looking at your local Costco, I will give you the update for when the butter's on sale. every time I do it. Okay, so we've got some of our dry ingredients here. I do want to add, we're going to be adding a little bit of brown sugar. We're going to be adding some salt. Okay, I did add a little bit of brown sugar into this just because I wanted it to have a little bit of sweetness to it. So let's do... We only need about 10 grams of brown sugar, which is about 1 tablespoon. Just get our spoon out here. Do I have a butter belt? No, I don't. I just leave it open like the degenerate I am. I've just got butter on a plate in the kitchen. We go through butter so fast that like I don't typically, like I don't have it encased. Oop. A little too much. There we go. Okay, so we've got just a tad bit of sugar get mixed into there. Okay, and then our salt. $10 grams grabs the 5 kilogram pack. Yes, actually it's 3.4 kilograms. It's a 7.5 pound of bag of brown sugar. That's okay. It's okay. That's how I cook. It's easier. It's easy to buy in bulk and then just use. I'm cooking so much that it's silly to not. And then also we're gonna use a half a teaspoon of Diamond Crystal kosher salt. I say this in every stream. Diamond Crystal Kosher Salt is the salt that I prefer in my house. It has a flakier crystal structure, so it's more forgiving in recipes if you oversalt by accident, and I prefer it. It's my favorite. It's my favorite. Morton salt is in fact saltier than Diamond Crystal Kosher Salt, and you have to use, I think it's something like 30% less salt by volume in order to have the same weight of salt as Diamond Crystal Kosher Salt. So if you remember, the cake flour versus the all-purpose flour actually have different weights at the same volume, and Morton salt and Diamond Crystal Kosher Salt are the same way. So if I have in my recipes, or I try in my recipes to say that I'm using Diamond Crystal Kosher Salt to make sure that people know that. I don't feel like a lot of people know that different salts weigh different amounts by volume, and that you can't just use the same, like you can't just use a half a teaspoon here and then a half a teaspoon of the Morton salt, because it is in fact saltier. It's like adding a whole half a teaspoon extra. And sometimes that's fine, but sometimes it's not. And I do feel like a lot of recipes online, I feel like a lot of cooks undersalt baked goods. And I'm fine with that, honestly, to err on the side of caution so that people don't like oversalt and they're like, it was too salty because they're using like a different brand. I feel like that is honestly probably them being safe and like making sure that they don't get people angry at them on the internet. But I don't like to do that. I want my food to be salted correctly. So I say, hey, it's this much of this specific brand of salt. And then if somebody says, oh, it turned out too salty, I can say, well, what brand did you use? But I do try to talk about that in every time that I'm using it. So you had to reorder another box of Diamond Crystal the other week. They sell it. If you are in the United States, or you do have a Whole Foods or a Trader Joe's, I believe they sell it in both of those stores. Also, if you have neither of those, a lot of the times, if you have like a Jewish market, it is kosher, Diamond Crystal Kosher Salt, and so they will sell Diamond Crystal in their stores quite often, and you can typically find it in like a Jewish market of some kind. So that may be helpful. Okay, so this has everything that it needs in it. I'm gonna bring the base over because we're gonna get into this pie crust. I'm hoping the butter has had enough time to get it really nice and hard in the freezer. Come on. Oh, I'm backwards. It's fine. We're having one of those days. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to give it a little bit of a pulse, just make sure everything's mixed. Okay. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to get my ice water ready. So what I want is we're using 5 to 6 tablespoons. I believe that's 75 to 90 milliliters of water, but it needs to be ice cold water. Again, we want to keep everything as cold as possible. We don't want the butter to kind of mush and meld into the flour. Those pockets of butter pieces are really what helps steam and keep your pie crust flaky. If you have it just uniform, you're going to develop gluten, and it's going to be just like, it's not going to be flaky. It'll just be kind of like one pie crust mass, something or other. It's still going to be good, but it's going to be tough, and we don't want it to be tough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this up with some water, and then I'm going to add some ice to it. The cool thing about having ice water or a technique or tip or something for ice water, if you have a fully, like after you've mixed it and it's gotten chilled, any ice that's floating around on the top, right, as long as you have ice and and the ice is not like immediately melting, your water is ice cold, okay? So if you have water sitting for a while and the ice has melted, then you know that that water is probably not ice cold anymore. If you're ever brining, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Let me rephrase. If you're brining say you're doing like a wet brine for a turkey or something like that for Thanksgiving or for a holiday. If you have that turkey in your brine in a cooler or something like that, because that's what I used to do. I used to put it in like one of those big igloo coolers. You can leave it outside on your back porch if you wanted to, as long as you still see ice every time you take that lid off. That water is ice cold. The second you don't see ice, you have to start worrying about whether or not it got at too high of a temperature. So as long as you keep adding ice to something and the ice is present in the water, you know that that water is ice cold. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm gonna do water and ice. Yeah, America is very hot, but where we are in November, it can get down into the 30s sometimes, especially at the end of November. So I feel much more comfortable about leaving. A lot of times it's warmer in the house than it is outside. So I feel a lot more comfortable leaving a cooler outside with my turkey brining, even though I stopped doing wet brines a couple years ago. But when I was doing wet brines, like I was totally fine with it because it's actually like 30s and 40s outside in Fahrenheit, not in Celsius. That's too hot. Please don't leave your stuff outside in 40 degrees Celsius weather. That's too hot. Okay. All right. So I'm just gonna add a bunch of water. I'm not even gonna measure it because the measuring will happen when I go to scoop it into my pie crust stuff. Okay. We're gonna add some ice, maybe. I've got very large blocks of ice in my, there we go. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do, okay, so I'm basically gonna mix this until the ice stops melting. You live at 30 plus degrees Celsius. Yeah, I mean, that's where we are right now. Like we're probably like the feels like because of the humidity is probably over 40 right now. Actually, it's been pretty overcast today. Maybe we're at a strong 35. Maybe we haven't hit 40 yet. But during the summer, 40 is easy. Do I own copper cups? No, I don't. So this water is ice cold. My ice is no longer melting. This is as far as we got. And then this ice will keep this water ice cold. As long as I have ice in this water, I know that it's ice cold. Easy. All right? Okay. There we go. Okay, let's get this pie crust going. Cool. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do, usually around 33 max. 40 feels gross. That's how it feels. Cook an egg outside. Actually, at least once a year, the news will do a story about people baking cookies in their car during the heat, like in the middle of the day. You just take a tray and stick it in the like windshield on the dash of your car, and it'll bake them. It takes about an hour, but they cook. we cook. You can absolutely bake cookies in your car for sure. You could probably do that in like Arizona too, to be honest. It's probably not just a Florida thing. It gets really hot there. Just there's like very little humidity because it's like desert. Okay, let me pry these butter pieces up off of this plate here. And basically what I'm gonna do is I'm just trying to break them up so you can see how hard they've gotten, right? So I'm just kind of breaking them up, breaking them into pieces, putting them in. But you can also see that this ice is still pliable, and that's okay. It's never gonna harden all the way. She used to drive to work and she'd throw her lunch up on the dash to heat it up in the morning. That's funny. Yeah. Honestly, I feel bad for the people who are in Europe because I feel like you guys don't have AC like we do. Like I've never been in a space like in a house without AC in it. I think the first time I was in a house without AC in it, we took a trip to Seattle. And it was like 82 Fahrenheit in the house and I was dying. I was like, this is too hot. How don't you guys have, like, how do you not have AC? I don't like ice in my drinks. I'm a born European, apparently. I don't like ice drinks. I wish I did. I don't. Okay, we're just kind of spreading our butter all around. Trying not to go too slow because I obviously don't want the butter to reheat. But I do want to make sure that it's spread out. Last bit. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to pulse this a couple times. It is going to get loud. What should we do? You can turn it down a little bit. Okay. It's going to get a little loud, but my husband is going to turn down or turn up the noise gate or whatever it is so that it's not quite as loud. Okay. So we're just gonna pulse it a bit. We can do just a tad bit more. Okay. So I don't know if we can see in that, but you can see they're like slightly larger than pea size. I've got some big pieces. I've got some small pieces. But it's basically like a mix. It's kind of gotten like a little sandy, right? So you've got some smaller pieces, and we've hydrated the flour just a touch. Now we're going to actually hydrate the flour with some water. Also, I'm terrified of leaving this thing on after I've pulsed it because it starts pulsing or starts going by accident sometimes, and I'm like, and it catches me off guard. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to count 5 to 6 of these. So you're going in 15 milliliter increments with water or a tablespoon each of water, and we're probably going to need about 5 to 6. And what we want to see is it start clumping. So what you're going to see in here is that the pieces the pastry, your pie crust is going to start to turn more of a yellow color because the flour is getting hydrated and darkening, and then that butter can kind of shine through, and it's going to start to clump a little bit. So let's go ahead and we're going to just be, hello? Oh, there we go. Okay, we're going to start kind of just pulsing and letting it get all the way through. And I'm not even going to check it until I've hit 4. And you can kind of see it come together in the bowl as well. There we go. Now let's give you guys another look. So you can see how that's kind of darkened in color. It's much sandier. We do have our little pea-sized pieces in here, but something that you're going to see, so it's still really crumbly. It does hold its shape. This is about where I want it, which is I think 5 of those is where we're going to end up. But you see it's still kind of falling apart a little bit. It doesn't stay. It's not moist enough to kind of like stay with that. I'm going to just, 1 second. Okay. Let's do this. We're going to do one more. Okay. Oh, I was going to take this out again. Okay. And go. Yeah. So I'm starting to see all of the little pieces in here. I've no longer got any just random flour. And I might, honestly though, add. That feels really good. Yeah. Okay, so that's where I want it to be. And you can see it clumps up. I can push it around. It's not immediately falling apart. It's not sandy anymore. So that was 5. You may need 6. It depends on where you are. It depends on how humid. It's really humid where we are. So that does affect your baked goods even in your house. Trying to make macarons in a humid place is a nightmare. Let me tell you. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to get this wrapped up. And I don't wanna have my hands on this. I want it to stay crumbly. Come out. I want it to stay crumbly, and I don't wanna get too much heat on it, or it will actually start to not be crumbly anymore. And it'll start to kind of give you that uniform texture that we don't want. We want to have pieces of butter in here. And we don't want to work it too much, because if we start working it, then that gluten will start to form too much, and you're going to get your a tough dough. So what I'm going to do, wherever I put it, so I'm going to take, this is press and seal. You can just use cling wrap or cling film or whatever you've got at your house to do this. If you want, you can just push it into a bowl as well. And I'm just going to do kind of a little bit at a time. Okay. And I'm just going to kind of do this. And I'm going to roll and press it together into one piece. Let's see if I can get that better into shot. There we go. A little bit better. Okay, so that's everything out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into like one big piece, and I'm actually gonna weigh it, and I'm gonna cut it in half and turn it into kind of like a log shape. And then they're gonna go, I'm gonna have two kind of equally weighed out logs of pie crust that are gonna go into the refrigerator so that they can rest and hydrate a little bit. Now the minimum time that I recommend for this is 30 minutes. Honestly, if you have an hour, if you have 24 hours, up to 24 hours, you really wanna make sure that this, because not only does that time allow for the water to really hydrate into this pie crust, which helps you go to roll it out, it also lets whatever agitation we've done to this pie crust now, it lets that gluten relax over time, which again is going to soften up your dough. So this dough is going to be crumblier and a little more dense than it would, say, if I went forward with this recipe in about an hour and I let it, or in 24 hours. The longer you let it rest, the easier it will be to roll, and the softer the pie crust will be. But we don't really have that much time today, so we're gonna do what we do and figure it out. We're trying to do this all in one. Okay, so let's weigh this puppy out. So now I've got my like mass of pie crust here. Come on, go. So I've got 434 grams. Let's divide that because I can't do math in my head like this. So 267 grams per half. This is like that show. Can I get it exactly in half? I doubt it. Oh my gosh. Okay, first of all, I don't like the 666 thing. We're gonna get rid of that. Look at that, 267 grams, we did it. Right in half. I appreciate that, good for me. Okay. That was actually really close. I was like, she's insane, she did it. Okay. Let's keep moving stuff out of the way. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of turn this into, like I said, like a log. You're gonna wanna be able to make 6 pieces out of this. It's gonna be about 44 grams per piece if we're weighing, but you want them to be like 6 equal pieces. And it's honestly, you could just do one big block and then just break the pieces off as you go. Here, let me move this back into the frame. You can just break pieces off as you go to make sure that they're like actually equivalent. So 6 pieces kind of per half. You should have 12 butter tarts by the time you finish. If you're doing this kind of by look, it's easier to do it this way. If you are doing it by weight, you can just keep it into like one big brick and just take pieces off and go that way. But this tends to be easier to kind of do this way. So basically I'm just gonna kind of roll it and we're gonna stick these into the refrigerator. She's cracked. I can't believe I did that right the first time. I didn't have to move anything over. Okay. Okay, so these are now going to go into the refrigerator and we're going to start working on our filling. After maybe I clean up a little bit. Made a bit of a mess. That is up to you, sir. No, I don't. I'm good. I don't need anything cleaned for the recipe, no. We do not have a swap for the crust. We're doing all of this in one. I'm trying really hard to make cook-alongs actually cook-alongs, so that there's no like movie magic, like, okay, it's done. I think this is a pretty rough one to do just because the pie crust doesn't get to hydrate as much. So we'll see what happens when we go to roll out the crust, because it doesn't get to rest for as long as I would prefer it to rest. However, it is doable. So I said, why not? Let's try it. The next one is going to be the hardest one that we've tried though, because I'm going to try to do ice cream. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. Because we've got some chilling to do with that custard. It's going to be rough. Okay. Just kind of wiping stuff off to make sure that I have places to put stuff. Yeah, see, so you can see, oh, maybe not. You can kind of see, maybe. I do this every time. Where is it now? You brought it closer to me. Okay, it was up here before and now it's like here. Okay, so you can kind of see maybe a little bit of the texture of that. So that's like a lot thicker than just like the pure maple syrup usually is. Okay. And she's feeling cooler. Can put my hand on it, so that's great. Okay. Okay, let's get into the filling. We need to make some brown butter for this filling, which also needs to cool, so I'm gonna do that first. Which means I need my induction back. Okay. Slide this guy in here. You haven't used your ice cream maker in a few months? You should get some cream. Yes, you should. I have 2 recipes. I have 2 recipes on the website that are no-churn ice creams. A Dublin mudslide and then a s'mores ice cream. And the s'mores ice cream, I will say this right now, it is a lot. It is a fantastic ice cream, but there are a lot of components and it does take some time. So you have to be willing to like put in the work for that project. The Dublin mudslide ice cream is far easier as a no-churn, but I do also have a French custard or French ice cream, which uses egg yolks and milk and cream and sugar and that whole kind of thing in order to make that ice cream. And it is by far my favorite style of ice cream. I get the ease of no-churns, But I feel like there's so much fat in the no churn ice creams that it like leaves a residue after a couple bites that I'm like not super fond of. So while they are easy and they are delicious and it does work, I still go back to the French ice creams. They're my favorite. They're so good. They're so good. Yeah, that's why I have a self-cooling. I have like one of the compressor ones. It's like a big Breville that just like sits up on the counter, which is why I was like, we can make this happen. I may even be able to show people what the end result looks like, which works for me. So it's nice. Breville, Breville, Breville. I know. Did I say that weird? That is a LUT magnet on the microwave. It is. That is in fact what it is. Okay, let's get into some of our butter tart filling here. So we are going to do, let's see, we've reduced our maple syrup already, and we've got that chilling. I need a half a cup of unsalted butter, which is the equivalent of, everything is in grams for me now. Let's see, 120 grams. Give or take. So let's do that. I'm gonna need, let's do this first, because we're gonna add it just right to the pan. We're gonna let it go from there. So let me zero that out. I'll get the remainder of this butter into my pan, which is about half of what we need, and then we'll add the rest from this other package. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Breville. Let's say about there. Oh gosh, this has been sitting out too. I should have used some cold butter. Okay, I want this to be 120, or at 111. Close. I didn't get the corner of that one out. That's why that did that. That would have been 120. Hey, 120 exactly. Okay. I'll stick this back in the fridge because now I don't need it anymore. Okay, so we are going to turn this into brown butter. Now, I know brown butter is the thing. You could, I made this before I discovered toasted milk powder. You could, in fact, use regular butter and just melt it and then add toasted milk powder separately. But because you need melted butter, I see no reason why you can't just make brown butter for yourself and go for it. If you wanted to add extra brown butter flavor, you can add a little bit of extra toasted milk powder to the filling and just kind of give it an extra oomph. However, it is going to cover up some of that maple syrup flavor, which we have worked so hard to reduce. So it's really up to you on which thing you kind of want to come through a little bit more. If you want to have that maple syrup flavor come through, or if you want to have a little bit of the nuttiness, brown butter flavor kind of become a little stronger if you're adding some toasted milk powder to this and not just going strictly with the brown butter here. That is up to you. I have made it, apparently, I've made it my blogger's life work to promote toasted milk powder. So I suggest we will be using it in the next cook along. But if you're interested in toasted milk powder and you're interested in the properties of it, you can go to my website. I do have a guide, and then I have a bunch of recipes that use it because I'm obsessed. So for anybody who's a Patreon and is in here, yes, you can give me a hard time. I did mention it. I did do it because we're making brown butter. How could I not? Toasted milk powder does slap. It does. My wife's on the couch sick and says, please have her airdrop me some of these tarts. Oh no. You know what that means though? You know what that means is that you have to make them now. Parabola, you have to make it. We are talking about toasted milk powder again. I know, I'm on my soapbox. Okay, let's get this going. Just gonna kind of mush it down a little bit and make sure that I get a bunch of surface area kind of going. It's gonna heat up pretty fast though. I gotta say, this cooktop is, it's like very powerful for the amount of, for like how small it is. I am a fan. The coil whine is pretty loud. It's pretty loud, although you can't hear it, so that's good. You can hear the fan? Yeah. So essentially, if you've never made brown butter before, essentially what we're doing is we are getting the butter so hot that the milk solids in the butter actually start to toast. And we are toasting them into a warm brown. This will start frothing. That's okay. And underneath that froth, those milk solids are going to start falling to the bottom of the pan and toasting, and you will see them. You'll see the color change here. It'll be pretty. I don't know where anything is. It's fine. We're good. Okay. I'll turn the power down a little bit. I want to make sure that all of this butter is melted before it starts like really frothing and cooking so that it all cooks uniformly. There we go. And basically what you're going to do is you're just going to kind of scrape around gently. You can see all of this foam on the top. These are our milk solids, all this foam. And as this cooks and the moisture cooks out of, because that's what this is steaming, right? All of this moisture, all the water is cooking out of the butter. And once all of that's gone, the milk solids on the top are going to drop to the bottom and they're going to be toasting in here. We're basically frying the milk solids in its own butter. Oh, it's starting to smell really good. You're gonna smell the butter those milk solids start to get, they're gonna start smelling nutty. And you're gonna get a really strong like butter toasted smell. Kind of like when you spread butter on like toast. That's what it's gonna start to smell like. I'm gonna get a surface kind of ready to set this pan down on. So one of the things that you have to kind of control and maintain when you're making brown butter, because it does cook really fast, once it gets going, it can happen very quickly. And so what you wanna do is you wanna be able to stop the carryover cooking as quickly as possible. So you stop just before the color that you want, and also you have to make sure that you're setting it down on something cold to kind of take some of the heat off the bottom of your pan to stop a lot of the extra carryover cooking. Both times, you made it twice and you're unsure if you did it right both times. Well, now you can watch this and you can kind of use this as a guide. You can see that these bubbles have gotten bigger. So first it was kind of like a foamy kind of situation on top, and now I've got only bubbles because we've got some of it falling to the bottom now. So now we're gonna start to see some toasting. And this is gonna happen like in the next like minute and a half. We're gonna be done. And we've got much less kind of popping going on. You can cook this on like medium. It doesn't have to be on high. Take your time. It's much easier to burn it if you're going too quickly. So just take your time, keep kind of scraping off your sides. Moving around the bottom. I'm starting to get some really intense toasted smell. you can see that the color is kind of changing and we're getting a little bit more brown on the bottom. But it's best to do this in a stainless steel pan so you can really see as things change. I will say that the bottom of this pan does have some brown on it, so it's a little bit harder for me to distinguish. But I've made this so many times that I can kind of tell. So we're getting some of this foam back. We've lost our big bubbles, but you can see underneath we've got brown. Okay, and I'm gonna wanna get that to a really nice warm amber color, and then I'm gonna take that off. So like in honestly 5 seconds. 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we're done. So that's off. That's it. And now that's gonna have a tad bit of carryover cooking. So it's gonna continue to get just a little bit more brown. It's best to take it off just before where you want it to be. So you can see I've got this like deep brown color, but it's not burnt, right? So we're going for brown, we're going for toasted. We don't want burnt. I'm gonna swirl it around a little bit on this cold surface. Swirling it gets a little bit more surface. So like it's gonna move the hot around so it doesn't just sit. And that's gonna help kind of cool it off just a little bit more uniformly. So you don't have like pockets of really hot that continue to cook those milk solids. We want that to stop. And we want that to cool off. You could put this into the refrigerator if you wanted. You could also just like set it out on the counter and just let it come to temperature and cool off. It depends on how much time you have. Carry over cooking. Oh, that's funny. My name's Carrie. They're making jokes that I said carry over cooking. Thanks, chat. But you can see like it gets to a really just nice. So I took it to like kind of like a deep amber color, and it's getting closer to like a mahogany now. We like all the colors here. We are Pantone aficionados. I'm getting into a really nice just like dark wood color. And that's where it's going to stay. It won't cook any darker than this. I'm gonna set this off to the side. Got a nice warm spot here where that was because it's pulling all of the heat into my granite countertops here. Yes, the filling, the butter does need to be liquid, which is why I decided to do brown butter. You do not need to brown the butter. If you just want to melt it and use melted butter, that is perfectly fine. As long as you're, anything that you are adding into your filling, like it needs to be 140 degrees Fahrenheit or 60 degrees Celsius or less before you add the eggs in. That's the only requirement. You do need melted butter, but it just needs to be under a certain temperature so that you don't scramble your eggs when you add them into your filling. Only important thing. Okay, so let's see, we've got our heated parts of our filling done. Our pie crust is in the refrigerator, still chilling. And now, let's see, we are going to do, let's see. Where do I want to go with this now? We got to do the filling. It's a little still hot. I think what I'm going to do, let's check the temperature on this. Okay. Yeah, we're at 96 degrees. That is great. I'm happy with that. Ooh, you can see that this is like nice and thick. Okay. I'm going to get a bowl and I'm going to start whipping the filling up. Actually, you know what? We'll be good. We'll move stuff. We're going to mix everything in one bowl. I really like, sometimes I will actually mix everything in my fat separator. I know it sounds weird. I will actually mix everything sometimes in this. And then I just pour into each tart instead of trying to scoop with a spoon and having it like drip everywhere. I will mix in this bowl today and then like spatula everything, scrape everything out into this and then use this to pour. Just because this is going to be a little awkward to mix stuff in. But I will 100%, when everything is like chilled appropriately, I will just mix everything in this and go from there. Turkey baster the filling, that would be a mess to clean the baster out for sure. You could do this. I have also used like cookie scoops where I've like scooped and then just kind of poured. That way I know I'm getting the same amount each time. It's really up to you on how you want to do it. Oh, I can see you in the microwave. Get this a little cooled off too. I'm gonna keep moving stuff around into cool spots. We're getting really close to the pie crust portion. I'm excited. Okay, so now we are going to be adding in, let's do butter tart filling. We need 1 cup lightly packed of brown sugar, about 180 grams. So I know you guys are all laughing at me because I had brown sugar in I had only 10 grams of brown sugar in my pie crust. Well, guess what? We're using it again. Okay. I'm just gonna add right in. Loose. There we go. About 180 grams. Okay. Okay, we need 10 milliliters of vanilla extract, which is about 2 teaspoons. I am going to use my volume on this guy. 1, 2. Okay, and then I do need lemon zest. Also kind of non-traditional to put like lemon zest in it, but I think it really just like adds a little extra lightness, brightness to the filling, which I appreciate. How do you revitalize brown sugar that has gone hard? So you have to add moisture back into it. I have heard of some people will put like I guess after it's gone hard. You need to, I think they're like clay pieces. I don't know how to explain this. They're pieces of like terracotta essentially that you soak in water and then you will put that into your brown sugar and it puts humidity back into your container, and then it should be able to kind of fluff. But that's what people are using those for. I've seen to keep the brown sugar from hardening, I've seen people just like throw bread in it, which weirds me out a little bit, to keep it soft because I feel like that's just gonna mold. So I don't trust that. But the terracotta things I do trust. I would do that. It takes a really long time for a brown. Like that's just been sitting there for a couple months. And that's still really soft. So like, I don't know. If your brown sugar has gone hard, it's probably time for new brown sugar. I'm gonna just throw that out there. Microwave it with a damp paper towel on top. Make sure I almost said that out loud, but I also don't want people coming for me if they microwave it for too long and it melts. So do a really low power setting. So like if you have, I keep waving this at, this seems threatening. Use a really low power setting. So if you have like a bread setting or something like that, or a like softened butter setting, use those on your microwave. Or if you can change the power level down to like 10% or something, you can then use that with your wet paper towel or like a cup of water like off to the side so that it steams and puts humidity back into it. The bread just dries out. It doesn't get moldy. That freaks me out. That freaks me out. I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to do it. Okay. So we've got zest of about 1/4 of a lemon. We're not going crazy here. Here we go. Okay, and then we're gonna start adding some of this stuff. So I'm actually gonna do, remember we needed like 1 cup by volume of this. So we're gonna pour. You can see how thick that got. I should have about 1 cup. Oh, look at me go. I'm doing great today. I use dry ingredient measuring spoons for wet ingredients because I'm not scared of mess and I'm fine having it get like billowed a little over the top because that's how you have to measure in order to use the dry stuff. I'm like, it's fine. It's fine. If there's a little spillage, it's not a big deal. Okay, so we're gonna pour all this in. Okay. And I am gonna give this a mix. I did put specifically in the instructions, in the instructions not to do a whisk because that puts like a ton of air into this and it gets like a little frothy and weird. Just use a spatula or a spoon. I prefer a spatula just so I can scrape the sides down and make sure everything's incorporated, but you can use a spoon if you really want to. Yeah, I'm hitting, although we were off to a rocky start with that mistranslation there. I mislabeled something in the recipe that I am gonna go back and fix online. But after that, we did great. We had a bit of a stumble in the beginning. You don't use brown sugar a lot because you basically do bread. That makes sense. Okay, so cross hunter, that is a great suggestion, but maybe not for this recipe. So everybody knows that is not currently reading chat. Cross hunter said, if you do incorporate a bunch of air, give it the old tappa after getting the filling into the tart shells. So typically, what you could do, so like say you're doing a custard-based tart or something like that, or even like caramel or something like that, and you wanted to get like any air bubbles out, you would essentially take, like after you've made them, you would take the tray and you just kind of tap it down like this, and it will make all of those bubbles kind of come up through the custard or through your filling, and then you can pop them with a toothpick or something like that. The problem with that is that if it sloshes around or moves at all, if this filling comes out, goes over the tart crusts at all and sticks to the side or goes down into the side of the pan, it's gonna be really hard to get them out of your tin. I wish that wasn't the case, but it is the case. You have to be really careful if you're doing that tapping to not let any of the filling slosh out to the side and touch any of the metal, because then it will melt really like a whole lot as it's heating up in the oven, and then like slide down in between the metal of the tin and the tart, and you're never getting it out of there. Now, I don't have a problem with that. Oops, I just hit the mic, sorry guys. I don't have a problem with that because I will just like get a spoon and eat it out of the tin. It doesn't bother me if it doesn't come out. But if you're trying to make these for like a group of people, something that you really want to do, and why a lot of the times I end up having a little bit extra filling, is that I'm trying to make sure that even if it does kind of rise and bubble in the center, as it should while it's baking, that it won't hit the sides and that it stays kind of contained within that pie crust. It's not too thick. It's a pretty thick custard, but it's not too thick. Okay, I'm gonna turn, now's the time when we should turn our oven on. Let's go. We've got that going. We're turning the oven up to 425 degrees, which is 240 degrees Celsius. That is what it is going to bake at. Once we have these ready, it is going to bake for 20 to 25 minutes. 22 is my sweet spot on these guys, but I really like to see a lot of bubbling going on, and we'll talk more about it. We'll talk more about it when we get there, but it just makes it makes sure that for me the filling is set. I like the filling to be set on these guys. Some people don't. Some people like to have a runny center so that when you like break into the butter tart, it kind of oozes out, but I prefer it to be set. Okay, let's add our brown butter in. I'm not doing a very good job showing you guys what I'm doing. There we go. Just scraping it out of the pan and into my bowl. We're gonna need a little salt. We're gonna do another half of a teaspoon of our Diamond Crystal kosher salt. Now, this takes a little while to incorporate in just because the butter likes to kind of sit as a slick on the top. It incorporates better once you get the eggs in because the eggs will act as an emulsifier. But I like to kind of get it as incorporated as I kind of can before adding in the eggs to make sure that we've kind of neutralized any extra heat and that it's kind of spread around. And so that we're not like splashing a lot, honestly, while we're mixing this. I can see Carrie accidentally spilling a little filling on the side so that she's forced to eat them out of the pan. I can't say that's never happened. The tiny crock pot as a salt pig. I've never heard it referred to that way. Still kills you. Do you like it? My little croquette here for my salt. I have one for sugar too. I have a white one that I put sugar in. Okay, so it's not like fully incorporated, but it's like mostly there. And then I'm actually gonna take the temperature because I wanna make sure, again, I wanna make sure that it's under that 140 degrees, which it is. We're at 83 degrees, look at us go. I don't know what that is in Celsius, I apologize. We are under 60 degrees Celsius, so we are happy. And we are gonna add our eggs in without any problems. I like to, typically I will crack my eggs into a different bowl because then if I get any eggshells, I can fish them out. But whatever, I'm gonna walk on the wild side today. We're just gonna mix them in, and once one egg gets mixed in, I'll throw the other one in. But you can see immediately that emulsified my oil in with the rest of my ingredients, and you no longer have that just kind of like all around the sides and hanging out on the top. Yay, eggs. Walking on the wild side. Look at that, we made it. Crack your eggs on a flat surface. If you crack them on the side of a bowl or something like that, you have a better chance of pushing egg shell up into the egg past the membrane that you're breaking through, so that when you open, it comes out with all of the inside of the egg. You don't want that to happen. It's safer to crack it just on a flat surface, just right down here. And that's not saying like I wouldn't crack it on like a plate. The extra layer there gives it too much give, and then you have to like super crack it to get it to work. Just find a really hard surface and just give it a crack. That's why I use my forehead. You know what? That works. Do it. I've always cracked eggs on the edge of a pan like my mom would. We've been doing it wrong all along. Okay, there's no real right or wrong. If you are great at cracking your eggs on the side of a bowl or a pan or something that is like relatively thin, and you've been doing it your whole life and you don't have any issues getting eggshell into your cookies and stuff like that, you do you. That is fine. You just have a higher likelihood of pushing eggshell up into the egg, like I said, than you do if you're just cracking it on a flat surface. And there are trade-offs. So like if you're cracking, most of my bowls have lips, so I can't even do that. But if you're cracking on a thin surface, like the side of a bowl or something like that, you do have the chance of getting the eggshells up in there. However, it does penetrate the membrane, so that kind of, let's see if I can find it. There's like a membrane. Where are we? Here. Let's see if I can peel that away. So if you can see this membrane here, it's kind of hard to puncture through that. If you're on a flat surface sometimes. If you're not hitting it hard enough on a flat surface, you have to use your fingers to kind of get past that membrane, which can be a little frustrating, and you end up cracking the egg anyway, like into little pieces, the shell. So it kind of just depends on like what's better. It's just easier to not get eggshell already kind of pushed up in there that you don't see. Most of the time, if it's a flat surface, you'll see when like an eggshell or something like that kind of comes loose because it doesn't get pushed up into the egg. So it's just a matter of, I guess, like as a fail-safe or like something like that. But there are trade-offs for everything. You only break eggs hibachi chef style on the side of what are those, like spatulas? Those fry spatulas? That's pretty funny. Okay. It's time to shape. Are we ready? Are you guys ready? We're gonna make some butter tarts now. We're gonna move this away again. Get this stuff out of the way. Probably use a knife. Let's keep this knife. Toss my eggshells. I am going to keep the all-purpose flour out so I can flour the surface that I'm going to be working on. Let's try to give you guys room to see what I'm up to. Need this back. Okay. At this point, all we're doing is making stuff. I don't know why I have these here. All right, let's get these away. Okay. So you got our filling over here. We're gonna get our little muffin tins. I'm going to have a quick conversation with you guys about different styles of muffin tins. It's going to be great. I also want just a tray in case we get any bubble over of the filling. I don't want it to fall into my oven. I want it to fall on a tray that's been lined. So we're going to do this. Also, it kind of stops them from moving around, because I've got a silicone mat down. If you want to use parchment paper, you can. I like the silicone mats because it kind of keeps everything stable. It is best to use a dark tin instead of a light tin. So the darker tins are going to give you a crispier tart. If you've ever been outside in a black shirt, you will know how much heat is absorbed through darker colors. Because of that additional absorption, you get that whole like Great British Bake Off, like soggy bottom fiasco. We don't want that. The darker the pan, the more crisp that tart is going to be on the bottom and on the sides. So I prefer to use these dark muffin tins for that. And we are going to make them right into these muffin tins. Okay. I'm also going to, I guess we'll pour last minute. Okay, got. This is something else. This is so, I don't have, let's see, make sure that I can give you guys the proper measurements here. I don't have a 5-inch cookie cutter or biscuit cutter. 12 centimeters? Yeah. I don't have a 12-centimeter biscuit cutter, so I just use the cap of a yogurt container, because why not? Essentially, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those logs of pie crust, I'm going to split them out, and as I split them out into their equal sizes, I'm going to roll them to about this size, and then I'm going to cut that out using this, and then it's going to go in the tin. I am not going to butter, flour, spray this tin at all. I'm going to leave it as is. There's enough butter in the pie crust that if you don't get filling down the side of the tin, it's not gonna you're not gonna have any trouble with sticking. If you wanted to, you could. It's not done any difference. Like, I've not seen any difference between buttering, flouring, using like cake release or any of that kind of stuff, or just leaving them bare. It's been exactly the same every single time, regardless of how I've treated the pan. Muffin tin sounds like a formal name. It does kind of. What should I call it? Okay. I'm gonna take one of the pie crusts out. We're gonna do one at a time. That way the other one has more time to chill. We'll see how crumbly this guy is. It might end up being a little bit more uniform than I would like, just because I might have to kind of reincorporate and let it get warmer and come closer to room temperature in order to actually be able to roll it out. It might stay crumbly just because it hasn't had time to hydrate. But we'll see. And either way, it's gonna work, and the recipe will be, I lost my scoop. The recipe will be fine. It is doable. Not quite the same, but it is doable, and it will be delicious. And that's all that matters. Okay, so like I said, we're gonna need about 44. Let's see if I can break this into 3, 4, 5. Give up there. I guess, you know what, I did say it was what? 267 divided by 6. 44.5 grams per is gonna be about right. If you wanted to, you could also weigh this out while you're making the first round of pie crust before it even gets to sit. You could immediately weigh that out and make little balls of dough and then cover them or wrap them and have those rest individually in the refrigerator. So then you don't have to do this step. You can kind of do it on the beginning, and then you can just roll these out without having to individually cut and measure anything. Okay, so that's about right. So we're gonna I don't want to touch this a lot, but we're gonna end up doing that. We're gonna just roll her out. We'll see what happens. The longer that this sits out, the easier it's going to be to roll. And essentially what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to roll it out without getting like really heavy breaks here in the sides. So I'm gonna just kind of be also pressing as I go to press that back together. Because those cracks are what cause issues when it comes to into the tin time. We don't wanna do that. Okay. That's about the correct size. Okay. We're just gonna cut, and then this goes off to the side. No, and there it is. Okay, we'll start over. I had a feeling. That's okay. Well, the good thing is that this is now going to be a sturdier piece of crust because I have fully incorporated it. I had a feeling she was going to crack and have to be. That's okay. The cool thing about this dough, and I will say this, because of the cake flour and because of the shortening, it's a lot more forgiving with the addition of all this extra flour. So you can work pretty heavily with flour to keep it from sticking to the countertop and not be worried about it. Like I'm not worried at all. Even if I had to sit and reincorporate this is fine. It is not a big deal. And actually it's gonna roll better now that I did that because now it's warm. And you do want to try to keep this all like a single thickness. That's also something that's kind of important. If you get really thin spots, it's just more likely to tear or to break through. We don't want that. So we're trying to avoid that, almost. So I'm kind of trying to roll it almost all the way over everything to make sure that it's all the same. Okay. I love that I use a yogurt top. We're fine. You do what you have to, right? One day I will purchase the correct size. Okay, so here's our first one. Just kind of give it a little bit of a press to make sure that it's together. I'm seeing a little bit of cracking, so we're just gonna, you won't see as much of this cracking if it's hydrated, but like I said, look at this is doable, okay? You're gonna want a good amount of flour, and then she's going in. And then the way that you wanna do this is you wanna kind of have it picked up and then kind of push it down in and let it fall in itself. It does get really wavy. That's okay. That's kind of a feature of the butter tart. If you really wanted to relieve some of this like waviness, you can just like add in an extra wave over here and it'll pull that further up. Okay. We're gonna kind of do this. You do want to have it up on the sides though. There we go. So there's our first in. You want to press it down. Be very gentle if you have nails because you might pop through the tin, and we don't want to do that. Nobody even saw me do that other than here, did they? I'm gonna bring this. How do I want to do this? I'm gonna ask my husband to zoom out the camera a little bit so that people can see both me working and me putting into a tin. How does that? Can we do that? Sound good? Maybe? Look at us go, 44.6. For what? No, I don't. Why? Like a storefront? You mean?
Probably was wondering.
I don't have a storefront. I should. I haven't had the time. I've looked into it like half a dozen times and I started making one. But I don't know enough about setting it up and I haven't gotten there yet, unfortunately. To buy me stuff? No, I don't have anything. I don't have any. Do I have a public wish list? Is that public? I have a wish list somewhere on there that's just called Spoon, but I think that's a private one for just us that I keep when I see something that's interesting. Honestly, even that's not curated correctly. That thing's probably 3 years old at this point. I'll do some more. Sometimes I like to just keep a bowl of flour, to be honest, instead of like having to go back into that tub. We're just gonna do that. Give her a little help there. When I put this apron on today, I gave it a pat and I said, "Apron, you're getting messy today. We're using flour. You're gonna put in the work today." If you feel it, when you are rolling out pie crust or even like cookie doughs, like if you're doing like cookies that are like cookie cutter cookies, like Christmas time, and you feel just a little bit of like it's not moving because if it has enough flour underneath it, your dough should constantly be like kind of moving around. And if you feel it, just stick a little bit and like kind of give a little resistance. It's probably getting a little too sticky underneath and you need to add some flour. Depending on what you're using it for. And there we go, we just broke it. I think I'm gonna have to like, we'll see. There's a big piece of butter right there. Let's see what we can do. This is definitely big enough now and it's super soft in that corner. I'm also seeing a lot of cracks. We are not hydrated. It's okay. We will figure this out. It's definitely big enough, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna just do it. There we go. The top here is just one big piece of butter. Okay, this one's gonna go in. These can be pretty delicate. If you're not used to working with pie crust, I would suggest that you make this all butter or all-purpose flour. And you like get rid of one of the other ingredients, the cake flour or the shortening. Just so that you can get used to it. Or honestly, if you wanted to skip some corners, you can go to the store and just buy pie crust and just use store-bought pie crust. For like the first time, just make the filling and then just use pie crust from the store. And that is perfectly acceptable if you are like nervous about it and you just want to get the right taste the first time. Pie crust can be kind of daunting. Especially when it's soft. And that's why in the recipe online, I have adjustments on there to help if you're going to use all butter or you're going to use all-purpose flour. I have the adjustments that you need to make to the ingredients so that you can have that. Because I know that it can be a little much, and that's okay. I am gonna get this warmed up because I'm seeing some cracking and I'm gonna just do that. So this is gonna be a little tougher than it normally would, but it's still gonna be nice and soft. And you guys will get to see that. I'm gonna bake them and I'm gonna show you guys how to kind of twist them in the pan to keep them from sticking as they cool. Hopefully I'll be able to cool one off enough by the end of this that you guys will be able to see what it's like cutting into it and all that kind of stuff. And you can see how the crust ended up. Yeah, this is way better just doing that instead of trying to go right from the cut brick when it's this when it's rested this for this small amount of time. That was definitely helpful. Okay. We're getting there. This looks way better. I'm gonna lift this up. Okay. So again, I'm using a 5-inch diameter top. If you have a cookie cutter or a biscuit cutter that's this big, then good luck to you. I'm using a yogurt top. It's about 12 centimeters for anybody who is using the metric system. Okay, we're gonna go in another one. Can we see? We can see okay, right? Yeah. Okay, so again, we're just gonna kind of fold her down in there. Let these guys happen, the little waves and swirls and stuff, just let them happen as they go in. They're not a big deal as long as they don't kind of fall down into the pan. Because again, remember, we don't want to get the filling kind of going over, right, and getting down in there. So you want it to be as high as possible. And if that means that you like are squishing some of it together, then that's fine too. Don't worry about it. Like if you have to squish a couple pieces, that's a-okay. As long as they're relatively high. That looks like that one's promising right there. Oop. Get that down into the pan. Cool. Next. What I might do is I might bake a couple of these and then make the rest, the next 6. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that looks good. So now, like, instead of like pieces, the butter's a little marbled in, but this is definitely better than where we were when we first started. And like I said, this was gonna get easier to roll the longer that this sat out. So that's also something. It does get softer. It is harder to, pie crust is definitely harder to manage if it's at room temperature, but it is easier to roll. So you find your sweet spot and you go with it. We're getting to a point where I think we're going to start sticking soon. So we're going to do that. Okay. Flip her over. A little bit more wide. There we go. Okay. You could also, honestly, have it not be a perfect circle. I'm just that person. You could just have it rolled out to the size that will fit into the pan and call it a day. That's really up to you. We're gonna, again, just let it kind of fall in. Make whatever waves it wants to make. If you want to relieve, so like this one's sticking out a little bit, if you want to relieve some of that pressure, just make another wave in there and it'll relieve a little bit of that pressure. Okay. How's it going here? It's going great. Getting hungrier? Me too. I am also hungry. But that's okay, because I actually get to eat these. Poor you guys just have to watch me make them. Does anybody have any questions or anything like that while I'm putting these together, or are we just really focusing on watching these go into a pan? Where are we on this? Right in front of us. Yeah, I am. I am going to be doing that. Who set up the cameras? Lep did. My husband did. He does do a great job, doesn't he? I'll do a little bit more. Let's get some more flour in here. Like I said, do not be afraid of the flour. There's shortening in here, there's cake flour in here. We're not uber worried about gluten development with these guys. You can work this dough. We're gonna just let it fall in however it feels like doing it. Oop. Okay. Just making sure if I see anything that looks a little scary, make sure that I'm kind of pushing that around. Okay, and this is our last piece. And then we'll go ahead and we'll fill them and we'll bake them. And then I'll start working on the other 6 while those bake. It takes about 20 minutes to bake these, 20 to 25 minutes at a 425 degree or 240 degrees Celsius oven. And essentially what you're gonna wanna see, it'll puff, like the top is gonna get nice and kind of is gonna get crusty on top. And then when it gets hot enough, it's going to actually, the filling on the inside is going to bubble up through that film, that crust that gets on top. And once it starts bubbling up through that, you know it's gonna fully set. If you see it just kind of get that kind of like nice sugary, like bruleed crust on top, but it doesn't bubble up through, there's a really good chance that when you take them out and you let them cool and you go to cut them, when you cut them, they will ooze out the center, and that's fine. Some people really like that. This is kind of a to each their own kind of recipe. If you don't want that, if you want it to be like set the way that like a custard would be set, that you can slice through it and it still kind of stays, if you want that to happen, then you're gonna want it to see it kind of bubble up through that bruleed top. Are we getting an oven cam? I think the oven is as best as it gets is what we've got right now. We don't have like this is gonna have to be. She's cracking. We're gonna reincorporate this one. Okay. For anybody who's cooking along with me at a later date or even now, you can see how much time this takes, how much focus this takes. Take your time. If you're faster than me, good on you. If you need an extra time and I'm going a little too fast, just pause and restart whenever you're ready. This is all the same thing. In fact, you can, watch me do this once or twice and then, just move on and pause it to the next spot where we're sticking it in the oven or taking it out, and I'm showing you how to move them around the pan. Just skip around wherever you need it. As fun as it would be to sit and listen to us talk this whole time, you don't have to do that. This end piece is still really kind of... Let's see. Okay. That was actually a pretty close to the correct size. We were great with that. Okay. I'm going to pull this up. All right, get this in the tin. This one is going to stick to the tin, I can tell you right now. So part of what this was is this one, we're not going to leave this one out. So part of this is I left this open the entire time that I was making the others, and it dried out. The dough just dried out a little bit. So we're going to make 5. That one's too dry, unfortunately. I can probably wrap that up and put that back in the refrigerator, honestly. And I can let it sit in the refrigerator and rehydrate, and it would be fine later. So I'm going to do that, actually. Let's do that. We're going to let this come back too in the refrigerator, and we'll make 5 right now. This is your reminder to not do what I do and to make sure that you are recovering your dough as you're working. And it does say that in the recipe. I didn't even follow my own instructions. We're fine. So I'm just going to give this a quick remix. What tends to happen with the filling is that the brown sugar will sink to the bottom. And so we're going to give it a nice mix to just reincorporate, make sure everything is uniform before we add it to our fat separator here. I'm just going to get like half of that in. I had a tissue paper, did I not? Okay. Here we go. It takes so long, but it's worth. And you want to fill these up about 2/3 of the way, maybe 3/4 if you're feeling like you got this. Again, remember, it is going to puff up in the oven. And so if your aim is to not let it go over the sides, then maybe stick with 2/3, up to you. Either way, she's delish. This feels just like so much less messy than, oh, that's even worse in frame. Oh man, I just got it on the side. That one's gonna stick too now. This is so much less messy than just using a spoon and like trying to get it ladled in. But I did just manage to pour right down the seam here. So this one might stick, but that's okay because I was looking at the camera and I was not looking at I was not looking at the tarts. There we go. Oop, got a little too excited. There we go. And the last one. Okay. So now I'm gonna actually go back, I'm gonna put these in the oven and then I'm gonna go back to making some more, shaping them and getting more into the tin. Let's get this in the oven. Okay. We're doing 425 for, like I said, 20 to 25 minutes. What I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna do a timer for 20 minutes. And we're gonna let that cook, and then I'll check it, and I'm just gonna check to see, like I said, I wanna see some of that sugar filling kind of bubbling up through the center. Do not drink this, it has raw egg in it. Do not do that. All right, so I'm just gonna start with a clean surface.
Oh wow. Yeah. Doesn't have an oven. Some places in the world don't have ovens, I guess.
Oh wow. Do you have like a toaster oven? If you don't have like a built-in oven, do you have at least a toaster oven? A toaster oven could work. You could probably, I'm gonna be honest, you could probably bake these in an air fryer. Because all that is like it's just conduction. Conduction, what's wrong with me? It's just a convection oven, an air fryer. Okay, next batch. And this time, we're gonna make sure that we're closing the the wrap back up as we go. Do we have an air fryer? Yes, we do. Non-related to current cook along, have I made granola bars before? I have. I have made granola bars before. I used to make them a lot actually when I was in college because it was cheaper to make them than it was to buy them. You'll give it a try in an air fryer? My only thought, okay, stick with me. My only thought is, do you have an air fryer that can fit an entire one of these in there? I've never seen anything smaller than a 6-tin muffin tin. I don't know if you can find a 4 or a 1. Not sure how that looks. I don't know how big your air fryer is. My only thought about that one is it would absolutely work in an air fryer, but you would need a very large air fryer to make that work. Also, you'd have to consider the fact that this is just a regular, like no fan, right? So non-convection bake. I've got it at 425. You would need to adjust. I believe for convection, it's a 25-degree difference. So you'd have to cook them at 400 in your air fryer for roughly the same amount of time. They do make the Ford muffin tin thing. That's pretty cool. Give it a shot for one tart. You're gonna make all of this so you can make one tart. You can have the filling because it does have 2 eggs. So you can have the filling so you're only using 1 egg and that's all down. And then if you want, you could also have the pie crust and you should be fine. I don't think there's anything that would be really difficult to have as long as you're using a kitchen scale. Good luck. Let me know how it goes in an air fryer. I would love to update the recipe and like let people know like, hey, if you don't have an oven, this is what you do. Would a ramekin work? It could. The only thing is ramekins. Could a ramekin work? It could work, but they're not dark. So like most of the time a ramekin, here, somebody in chat said you're making up words. Oh no. Here. No, I'm so short. I'm too short for this. We have little ramekins and I don't know where they are now. Where did they go? They're usually right here. Oh, it got moved. So typically a ramekin will look something like this. I've got a really tiny, we use these ones for like ketchup. But you can get ones that are like larger size for like creme brulees and things like that. Most of the time they're wide because you're using them for like creme brulees or panna cottas, but sometimes you can get them with a relatively high side. The way that this is, and this is about the size of a muffin. So this could in theory work. However, remember how we talked about heat conductivity and how a darker surface is going to give you that really nice crispy crust. It would be a lot harder to develop that in a white container, in a white cooking vessel, a white vessel. I don't know what we're going to call this, whatever we want to call this. And you can't, I have tried. Honestly, I probably should have written about it in the recipe. You can't pre-bake and you can't blind bake this dessert. As I sit here with this just like open, this crust puffs a little bit. And so if you try to bake it without filling in it, it's just going to kind of like puff into itself. So that's like not a thing. You can't add rice or pie weights or something into that because it will puff around it, and then it's really difficult to get it out without breaking the pie crust. It would be a journey. It would be an experiment. You can see what you can do. Just keep those things in mind when you are attempting it. I am too short to use my own kitchen. Yes, we have stools everywhere. Stools and husbands everywhere. That's true. Okay. I'm so excited for butter tarts. Yeah, we're in the short club, Em. You and me. The shorties. That's not enough. There we go. Okay. They make darker colored ramekins. Ooh, thank you, Sparkler Hawk. Ooh. I didn't know that. Okay, you can get a darker colored ramekin. It doesn't matter what the outside color is. It's going to matter what the inside color is. Whatever is actually touching the crust is what you want to be dark colored. So good luck. If you can find that, that'd be great. That'd be amazing. You have navy ones from Crate & Barrel? That's cool. I had no idea. Man, I cook all the time. Like, honestly, there's so much to learn. I cook all the time. I'm online all the time looking at people cooking, and I still don't know stuff. It's crazy how much information is out there and how much there is to learn. That's awesome. Focus. The nearest place that sells creme brulees, 40 minutes away. That's a long way. Tiny cast iron Dutch ovens at Target sometimes. Ooh. Start my Amazon list with dark colored ramekins, probably. You're probably right. Yeah, my husband's favorite dessert is creme brulee, but I don't really care for it, so I don't make it. I should just make it. I should make it for your birthday. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. So he really likes creme brulee, but if he had the choice between creme brulee and banana pudding, he would choose banana pudding. So I always make that. One day I'll make a creme brulee for you. What flavor would you like if you had to choose like a flavor to have? You don't know, you just eat it? Okay. Hello, welcome in. We're making butter tarts. Thank you for joining. Thank you for hanging. If you have any questions, make a banana pudding flavored creme brulee. Ooh. You could scoop it and eat it with Nilla wafers. That would be pretty good, actually. You could, I bet you that I could, the top of a banana pudding, if I just sprinkled sugar and torched it, and then put some like Nilla wafers on the top, just pretty, or left it like creme brulee and you had to like crack through it. I bet you that would be really good, actually. I bet you that would be very good. Ooh. Yes, it is. Thanks, Head Killer. I really like my blue hair, too. I'm a fan. Oh, wow, it looks good on the dark mode. Doing it again, guys. ADHD. Okay, in she goes. Kind of just letting it kind of fall in. There we go. Next. Crushed up Nilla wafer, mix it in with sugar and brulee that. Okay. You could do some interesting like twirls and things like that, I'm sure. What? Okay. Got about 5 minutes left. I can smell them. I can smell the pie crust. And they are starting to puff, which I am happy about. Does cooking come included with the paid actors package. For those of you who are here and randomly watching this video, not as a live, and you don't know a lot about my husband's online community or my online community, it is a running joke that I am not in fact his wife and I am a paid actress. Yes, cooking does come with the package, with the paid actors package, it does. Great question. If you're here in the live and you're curious about this recipe, you can find this recipe on Instagram. My handle is a_little_spoon, or you can find it on my website at alittlespoon.com. No, I'm not a bodybuilder. We rock climb for fun. Does that count? Oh, I'm doing it again. Dang it, man. Oops. Okay. Again, basically what you're gonna do, okay? You're gonna set it in and you're gonna give it the ability to fold wherever it wants to fold as it goes down into this tin. And if it decides it wants to fold kind of weird, that's okay. We're just gonna let it happen as long as the sides come all the way up. That's the only thing that matters. Ooh, that doesn't happen. I've got a break in the bottom. Okay. She didn't go in very gracefully, unfortunately. Let's try a different one. We'll come back to that one. Come on. Ooh. Okay. Because you guys can't see what's in my oven right now, I'm gonna explain it. Nah, it's okay. So I've got my butter tarts in the oven, obviously. I've got some nice browning going on at the top of them, and then the crust has kind of gotten that like bruleed top, right? So I've got a single surface. It's nice and brown, and it's just starting to kind of bubble up from underneath, which is exactly what I wanted to do. So this was very good timing. And we are honestly, I can probably take this out a little early. We're about there. I'm gonna take this out. Look at that, look at us go. Let's take these out. You guys can see maybe a little bit of that bubbling. You can see that. Those are our butter tarts. I'm going to, I don't even know what to do with these now. We're gonna set this in the middle of the, oh, hey, the timer. Turn that off. Let's stop what we're doing for a second. So I want to show you guys what to do. Here. We're going to clear up our camera space here so that you guys can see what you need to do now that they're out of the oven. I don't want to set a hot pan down onto the flour, so we're going to just kind of scrape this away a little bit. Okay. I want to put my hand in this. Okay, so we're moving this in. Okay, so what you're going to do when it comes out is you're just going to give it a little test and see if any of them just spin freely right off the bat. None of these do, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it sit a little longer. They do need to cool for about 10 minutes before they are like, honestly, it could be even longer. The cooler they are when you take them out, kind of the better. However, over the next 10 minutes, I'm going to be constantly kind of like coming back and testing them to see if I can get them to spin. Because the longer that you let, because essentially like when they first come out, the butter, right? The butter in your pie crust, any moisture in your pie crust is still there. And as it cools, that pie crust is going to get more stable and more solid. However, as the sugar cools, it's going to get more stable and more solid. And so you're kind of working against, you can see I can twist this one. So we know this one will come out. We're kind of working against that. And so we're kind of coming in, and every now and then we're going to check to make sure that nothing has gotten sticky or tacky, the sugar down the back side of our tins here. And we're also like kind of finding that happy medium between when the pie crust sets and the filling is still pretty molten. So this one is spinning pretty freely now. So that'll come out nice and easy. This one looks like I kind of pushed him a little bit too much into the side here. So I'm not even sure what's going to happen with this one. And this one we said was definitely going to stick. And he is sticking quite a bit. But we'll see if we can get him spinning. Because sometimes too is, sometimes even if you do have like a little bit of a break or a little bit that is touching kind of down the side, if you can kind of keep spinning it as the sugar cools, it won't actually like stay stuck. And it'll kind of harden and then just like solidify to the side, which is not a big deal. This one I can see that we bubbled over down the side. So I am going to keep kind of trying to spin it a little bit. But we want to be very careful. We don't want to spin it so much that it actually like causes a real break in the pie crust. So we're just being gentle, and we're just going to kind of come back and forth to these little by little. But yeah, we've got two fully free spinning ones here. This one might do it in a little bit. We'll give it a little bit more. I can feel these two are spinning pretty freely. We're just going to let them sit a little bit, and then we're going to come back to them. So I'm going to make another. How hot is that? That's pretty okay. I'm going to make another one of these. Oh, okay. We have a recipe user. Not this recipe, but a recipe user here. How many times have I burned myself? My fingers are pretty, between climbing and cooking, my fingers don't feel heat very much anymore. Sometimes they do, but it takes a pretty high temperature for my hands to be bothered. This is not that hot. This is not that hot. As long as you're not touching the metal, right? Because it's all about conductivity, right? That metal will burn me, but these guys are not that bad. Miss Scarlett is in here. It says, I used a recipe for toasted milk powder chocolate chip cookies, and it was amazing. First time toasting milk powder. I'm good. I'm glad you liked it. Thank you for going with me on that journey. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's honestly one of my favorite ingredients to play with and to just add extra flavor. It does so much for recipes, and it's a lot of fun. Hey, Luke. Sorry, my son just walked out of the room. Luke, Daddy's in there. Toasted milk powder was mentioned, honestly, for a second time because I can't help myself. I was scared, but I trusted the instructions, and it made them so much better. Aww. Wow, you know what? That's great. That's great. That level of trust, I appreciate that. Persevere through the scared. That's really cool. Thank you for sharing with me. That's cool. You made my day. That's cooking in a nutshell, yeah. Is there a limit to how much garlic you can put in a recipe? I mean, I'm sure there's a limit. I'm sure I also hit that faster than a lot of other people. I'm unfairly allergic to garlic. So I don't get to play with it as much as other people do, unfortunately. I have to roast my garlic if I want to eat it because I can't. Fresh garlic gives me really bad stomach aches and it makes my mouth swell. So we don't mess with that. We're careful with the garlic. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Me too. I'm very sorry. Very sorry about it. I didn't eat any garlic for like 7 years. And I was at a friend's house and they love garlic, but I don't know if they realized like how allergic to it I was. But they made dinner and we were eating dinner at their house and I like took a spoonful or like something of the meal and a whole clove of garlic plopped off of like my spoon or my fork or something. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna die today. What's gonna happen? And I was okay. And I was like, okay, I see you. And then I started like experimenting more with garlic in my food. And so I've gotten to a point where like I can literally put like a clove of garlic now into like a quarter cup of like sauce and like be fine. But it has to be roasted garlic. I cannot. Fresh garlic is still a no-no for me, unfortunately. That's just a bad mincing job. Yeah. Oh, the cilantro thing? Does it taste like soap to you? One little piece can ruin a I will take a handful of cilantro and dump it on a taco and be perfectly happy. I love cilantro. Okay. We're going to let this guy fall in. I don't want to cover. I want you guys to be able to see kind of what we're working with. Fall in as it may. It's okay if it doesn't look like you've got like a ton of space. It's still going to be delicious because it will come up, right? The biggest deal, like I said, the biggest deal is you don't want to have the crust kind of be halfway up the tin because then you definitely will get a bubble over. This one's going to look really interesting. Okay, let's come back to this and see if we can spin any more of these. I did lose track of them a little bit. Okay, so we've got another one spinning. I feel like I should have put this on a trivet so the pan didn't spin. I'm gonna do that. There we go. Okay. So basically you're just coming back and you're just making sure as they cool that you can spin them. This one is stuck. This one's getting eaten out of here and I'm fine with that. Yeah, he's a stuck boy. That's okay. I'm actually very happy about that. I didn't do that on purpose at all. So basically what we are going to do, because we're about done, so fair warning, you've only got a couple minutes left. Essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish rolling these out. I'm just going to do another 5, I think. And I'm going to put them in the oven, and we can take one of these out and we can try it, and I'll show you guys what they look like. I will say they haven't fully cooled, so it will be relatively set, but it might not be as set as it would be once we let them kind of come to room temperature and actually rest after we get them out of the tin. So you guys will get to kind of see a little bit of what we're working with and watch me eat one, which of course, and probably my husband, because you know he's not going to turn up the opportunity to eat food. So he'll probably make a cameo appearance so that he can have a taste of the butter tart. And I'll get these ones cooking in the oven while we just chat. And we'll go ahead and we'll close out the stream. I hope everybody had a good time here. I did mention again, this is, again, we're going to say this one more time. This is a very soft dough. I keep forgetting to close it. What is wrong with me? This is a very soft dough. We've got shortening in it. I've got cake flour in it. So you can be very liberal with the amount of flour that you use when you're rolling them out. And it also means that they tend to just be very, very careful. They tend to be pretty delicate. If you do not want to have this delicate of a crust, I fully understand. I was trying to get these as soft and flaky and crumbly as possible without them like fully breaking. It is very, very delicate. If you don't want to work with that, if it's your first time, if you're nervous about it, you can see how much trouble it gives even somebody who's been doing this for a really long time. You can do a couple of different things. One, you can make sure that you're letting it fully hydrate and you're not taking it out of the refrigerator 30 minutes after you put it in. 30 minutes is really the minimum, but as you can see, it's a lot harder to work with it than if you left it 24 hours so that it fully hydrates in the refrigerator. It's a lot easier to roll out without any cracking or something like that if you let it sit and rest and chill in the refrigerator for 24 hours before you go and use it. So essentially what you'd be doing is you'd be making your pie crust the day before, letting that chill in the refrigerator, and then the day of you can make everything. You can, in fact, make the filling the day before and then just like kind of do everything the day before and then come and bake it the next day. That pie filling or tart filling is fine sitting in the refrigerator for a couple of days. If you wanted to do everything pretty far in advance, that is absolutely something that you can do to save time. Day of, that's not a problem. And then you can also, and there are instructions for this on my website. If you go to alittlespoon.com and you look up this recipe, or if you click the link in the what is that even called? It's not the comments, right? What is that called? The description. Description is the word I was looking for. In the description of the YouTube video, the link to the recipe is there. If you are still on YouTube, that is where you can find that. Just click on that, and there is a whole FAQ section that talks about variants to the pie crust. So you can do an all butter pie crust, or you can do something that has just all-purpose flour instead of all-purpose and cake flour. That is also an option. Or if you really wanted to make it easier on yourself the first time, you could make just the filling, and you can go buy pie crust from the store and use a pre-made pie crust that you can roll out. That is also fully an option. Do what makes things easier for you, at least the first time making these. They're delicious, but definitely can be temperamental if you're not used to working with pie dough, which is fine. Do what works best for you. Okay. We'll do one more. That's a good point, Red Hood. Thank you so much. I have a Canadian friend in here that just reminded me to tell you guys about the different variations of this wonderful dessert. So traditionally, butter tarts are made one of two ways. You can have it essentially this way, which is the way that I like to do it, which is basically filling and the pie crust, and that's it. But sometimes you can also have raisins. Raisins are a very common things to put kind of in the bottom of the filling. They soak and bake, and they can add just like a little bit of extra like kind of date flavor in to the butter tart, which can be delicious. It's honestly not my favorite. It is a big point of contention among Canadians as to whether or not you add raisins or don't add raisins. You can also add pecans. I've been to a bakery that does butter tarts, and I have seen a ton of different types of butter tarts that they've like taken it and just done like all sorts of variations of it. My recipe does have instructions for some variations, including adding raisins or pecans. I also have a mocha version that I came up with that I am a little obsessed with, where you add chocolate and espresso powder to the filling. They are delightful. And then probably my favorite iteration of a butter tart is, because I love peanut butter and I love chocolate, is to let this bake and then you fill the cup with peanut butter and chocolate after they're baked. They're really good. They're really good that way. So there you go. Thank you, Red Hood, for making sure that in Saskatchewan, they put blueberries in there. I bet that'd be pretty good. I would do the blueberries over the raisin, to be honest. My humble opinion, I think the blueberries over raisins would be it for me. Peanut butter and chocolate's a good version. Oops, almost dropped her. Okay. Last one. We're getting a little dried out here, and I can tell. Okay. There we go. We are in. Seeing a little tiny hole down there. I don't know how that's gonna go. That might be when we eat out of too. Okay. Got flour everywhere. We're gonna ignore it. So I'm gonna just, again, we're gonna reincorporate because that brown sugar has settled to the bottom. We're gonna reincorporate. And in this too, because now this is sat for a while, to make sure that it's all mixed correctly. And we're gonna go really slow. Actually, let me take these out. We'll see if we can pop one of the butter tarts out of the tin for you guys. They've been sitting for long enough, I think. Again, we're filling these up about 2/3 of the way. If you really wanna push your luck, you can go to 3/4 of the way and see how you can get. And I know this is slow, but pouring like this is so much better than trying to scoop with a spoon. It's so much less messy. I can't read chat right now. I'm scared if I look away that I'm gonna pour down the side of the tin and not into the tart. Okay. Ooh. I'm so excited. I want to eat one of those so bad. I feel like I should be good and I should clean up before I do that, but I honestly don't want to wait. Okay. And one more. And then this will go in the oven, again, for about 20 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes, depending on your oven, depending on your humidity, depending on a whole lot of things. That's generally a good amount of timing for these. I like maybe we could a little bit more on this one. There we go. Okay. And into the oven we go. Set our timer. 20 minutes. Oh, wait, that says oven cooling down. Did I turn my own oven off? Whoops. She's not at temp. Don't do it. I'm glad I noticed that. That would have been a problem. What is she on? 3:15. That wouldn't have worked. Okay, cool. Well, let's clean up our space a little bit. And then we can eat one of these. I'm going to scrape my surface off. We'll get these in the oven again in a second. Yeah, I got to get her warmed up first. What was I doing? Humidity can be a pain in the butt when you're baking. I'm going to be honest. It really can. Okay, let's clean up our counter. I am officially covered in flour. Okay. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do, you can try one of two things for this. Let me see. You can try one of two things for this. The best way that I've found is using an offset spatula. So one of these guys to kind of dig in and pop out the butter tarts. If you let them set all the way, and I have done this, but they have to be fully set and you have to have cooked them so that the filling sets. Because if the filling doesn't set and you dump them out, which you can do, if you dump them out, they are in fact going to break open and ooze everywhere. We don't want that. But if you've cooked them to be fully set, then you can do this. So basically what I do is I'm just gonna kind of pull up and get this offset spatula out, and then there's your little butter tart ready to go. Nice, I don't know if you can hear it, nice dry bottom. Do you want to get a plate or something? I guess we can. Go. Just kind of. It's a good looking tot. It is. He's ready. He came into frame. He was like, hey, I'm here. He said the magic words. So you just kind of can lift it, right? So you just kind of like grab a side that's like got a really thick piece of pie crust, and you're just gonna kind of lift it up, and then you're gonna get the offset spatula. The offset spatula isn't there to help like really pop it out. It's there to kind of just help lift. Once you kind of got it raised out, it's to help get underneath and pull it out in one piece, so that it's got a little bit of support underneath. So same thing. So I'm gonna kind of lift until I can get this underneath, and then it's gonna help me raise it all the way up. This one I don't believe we can get out. Yeah, she's in there. That's a-okay. Let's cut one of these open so that you can see what that's gonna be like. Get my trusty knife here. Now this obviously is still warm, so it will be set, but it's not going to be fully set. But you can see like that will fully set after it really has time to rest. But it is set, and it is exactly how I like them. Are you ready? Are you ready to eat it? I'm so excited. Can I take a bite? Can I eat it? Knock myself out. Oh man. Yep. I'm so happy. Oh man. Yeah. That's really good. Cheers. I need some milk. That's really good.
That's pretty good.
That's very good. Thanks for joining me today. Does anybody have any last minute questions about storing, baking, anything that I did that you like want more information or detail on? How are we feeling? Thank you. Oh my God, that's so good. But like seriously, could you imagine if I just like put some peanut butter and some like and then like drizzled chocolate over the top of that? How great that would be. I did put in lemon zest. There's lemon zest in the filling. I will say, if you want there's two ways you can get the filling to stay liquid. One, you cannot cook them for as long. Totally fine. So you see that kind of crust form, but it's not bubbling up through. You just pull it out of the oven at that point. It's probably somewhere between 17 and 18 minutes. I will also say that that bottom of the tart, you might have, I'd rather like have it cook through all the way and get bubbly, and then have it in the oven for that long, because without that, I'm not exactly sure the bottom of that pie crust, like how cooked through that's going to be. And I don't want you guys to have like the tarts kind of falling through when you go to take them out. That would be not great. There is an extra ingredient you can add to the filling that will ensure that it does stay liquid, and that's lemon juice. And it does, I do have that. I'm probably getting flour all over my face. I do have that in the ingredients. It says that it's optional. It gives an explanation for why it's optional, and it also tells you when to add it. But that lemon juice will help to keep this liquid. So that is 100% an option if you do not want it to set. I'm just gonna have this slide around the pan. Okay, in she goes. Okay. Store them in a container. Yes. Store them in an airtight container on your countertop. I will suggest you let them cool all the way down before you add them to said or before you like close the container. Because if they're still warm when you close the container, you're gonna get steam in that container, and then your pie crust is not going to stay crunchy. It is gonna get a little wet, and we don't want that. So let them cool all the way down and make sure that they are fully cooled, fully room temperature before you add the lid onto your container. You can freeze them. They freeze and they defrost fine or reheat fine in the oven. that is absolutely a-okay to do. I'd probably reheat them around, oh gosh, I apologize for my Celsius people, about 200 degrees, 200 to 250 degrees Fahrenheit in your oven is a pretty good place to be when you're reheating them. Can anybody throw that in for C so that I can say that out loud? I should really have like a conversion thing just like hanging out with all the regular temperatures that I say all the time. $120C, thank you. Well, no, that's just half though. That's what, for 250 is 120? Is 250 120? 200 will be less.
You said 200?
200 to 250, you can reheat it. 93.3 Celsius, so 93 Celsius up to 120 Celsius. Somewhere in there is a good bake point for reheating it. I would suggest that you don't take it directly from the freezer into the oven. I'd say to put it kind of out and let it defrost for a little bit and then go ahead and put it in your oven and let it come to temperature back up in your oven. I need a conversion chart on the fridge. I have one for ounces, teaspoons, milliliters, like all that kind of stuff for like liquid volume from imperial to metric, but I don't have one for temperature. I really should. Okay. I guess we're gonna do, we'll do the outro for the people who are here, found me on YouTube and are watching this as a not live video. This was a live stream. Thank you very much to the people who joined me live today. But for those of you who are just here as a regular video, you may or may not be still working on these. You might have them in the oven. You might have finished all 12 and you've got them in the oven right now. Good luck. I hope this was helpful. I hope you've gotten a lot of the tips and pointers that you may not have gotten from the website, and that having a video of this is making it easier for you to cook along and have something to help support you in your endeavors. Butter tarts are such a good dessert. They're so delicious. And I hope that you get a chance to enjoy them as much as I do. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick outro and we'll end that video. And then for the people who are here live with me, I'll stay on for another couple minutes just to chit chat a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and end the live as well. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining me today in the A Little Spoon Kitchen. We made Canadian butter tarts. It is a dessert that is typically made for like Canada Day, kind of their like national holidays. Canada Day, also very popular around Christmas time. If you feel like bringing something to your family get together and you want to be a little extra, these are definitely the thing to do. They are quite frankly absolutely delicious. And I'm very happy that we were able to make it. The next cook along that we are going to be doing for September of 2024 is brown butter bourbon ice cream. Looking forward to that as well. We are going to try to fit ice cream into one full stream. It's going to be rough, but we're going to do it just like doing this. It was a little rough, but we did it. And hopefully you guys picked up on tips and tricks along the way. If you are looking for me, you want to find me on any of my socials, you stumbled across my page on YouTube and you're not sure where else to find me, you can look at my website. We are alittlespoon.com, or you can go to Instagram. That's probably my main social right now. And that's at _little_spoon. I've got underscores in the spaces because I came a little late to the game, and you know, you can't just get everything all as one word, unfortunately, nowadays. But yeah, all my socials are essentially that, the _little_spoon. I love cooking. I love to hear if you've made something and you really like it. I would love to hear all about that. And if you've made something and an instruction wasn't quite right, or you need more information, or you want to put in a request for a recipe, you can go to my website. There is a contact me page. Feel free to ask me as many questions as you'd like. I'm always here. I want to help you guys learn as much as I possibly can so that you guys can take this knowledge with you into other culinary adventures. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you guys next time.